what's up? It's Ricky again, and I am back with a lesson with, and I got my boy Uly Nieto. He's an audio engineer, so this is a lesson with Uly. Hey, what's up, Uly? How you doing?
What up, man? I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on here, dude. It was good to see you, man.
Always good to see you. So, basically, what I'm doing is just an informative little lesson, quick lesson to give someone that might be scrolling on YouTube, messing around, that wants to maybe be an audio engineer and they're Googling audio engineer, how to become an audio engineer. So what are some tips and steps that you did to overcome whatever you from not being in not working to working where you are now in the video game industry? He works on video games. So can you tell me a little bit about the start, how you got the start? What would people, how would someone go about doing what you do?
Yeah, yeah. Definitely would love to talk about that. Yeah. So, I mean, first off, there's like really, obviously, like any industry, no easy way or one ticket straight to where you want to be in the audio industry, right? Obviously, being based here in LA, it's really hard to get where you want to be, right? You have these aspirations that you want to be certain things, and you quickly find out that you really got to start, from scratch. You really got to start from the ground up. But yeah, so I started in San Diego, and I kind of always wanted to do audio, coming from music and stuff like that. So I tried doing like a formal education, going through college and learning audio engineering formally through that, starting from community over and then transferring to university, which was UC San Diego. So I started there, and obviously everything's going great. Everything feels really inspiring. You're very motivated, but then you're like slowly start to realize that it's still really hard to get a job. It's still really hard to get into the industry, right? For one, you got to go where the work is, and being from San Diego, I'll tell you that it's not really there if you want to be an audio engineer, right? So being not too far from LA, I was like, well, that's probably where I should go since there's just so many more opportunities there. So I get to LA and quickly find out that's all that formal learning, all that formal training really wasn't doing much for me here in LA, right? So what do? You start from scratch, And I would say if you're in that same situation, the most important thing is to really get out there and start meeting people, right? Start networking, get out there to events, really start reaching out because no one's going to reach out to you, right? Like you're the one that's here starting off. You can't really sit around waiting for things to happen. And yeah, you really got to go out, network, meet people, and start getting, freelance gigs, getting independent projects going. If you can't get the big gigs, you got to kind of DIY it, do it yourself, get what you can, and then slowly start building up, and getting to where you want and building a nice resume that hopefully someone will notice at some point.
But what gear would I need to start with?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because there's so many different fields of audio, right? So it just depends. But regardless of what audio you get, I will say that you can get pretty far with a little bit of gear, right? It's audio, it's sound. You could learn and hone the skill to really craft something with a small amount of gear, right? So that's the first thing I would say about that. But I mean, if you specifically, I would say entry level stuff would be something small like a little interface, like $100 or $200 interface. Something I see all the time, especially where I work with a lot of record from home talent, And the one I see, and which I would also recommend, are just the small Focusrite Scarlets, right? The little small 2 channel red boxes.
Yeah.
Get yourself a couple channels on there, and then get yourself a $100 to $200 microphone, something like a Rode NT1 or like a AKG Perception model, anything that's entry level that's a known brand, right? Don't get the weird brands from Walmart or the USB mics. You might want to avoid those because those do sound different than a good XLR mic,
Basically
But
get an XLR mic. Then there is some cheap options for XLR mics, right?
yeah, and USB don't sound bad, but it's you're talking about like what we're doing and getting this audio in as an analog signal into the computer. You want to get a good clean sound like that, but yeah, get yourself something like that, and then from there, teach yourself how to manipulate the audio, right? Like from there, you could do everything in the box, and you could get really far by doing everything in the box with plugins. There's a lot of good plugins that you could use. There's some free ones. You could really make it work, and there's stuff like the Ozone stuff if you want to do mastering. there's a lot of budget friendly plugins. So like once you get your entry level hardware, you could take it software the rest of the way and really get far.
Okay, cool. So Yuli has done a lot of TV, a lot of film, and now he's on to, like I said, video games. What's different from video games to the TV and film?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying that what I specifically do in video games is I record, I do VO, like I record the talent, right? These voice actors that come in. Um, I would say from that point, because you could also, there's people who are mixing the audio, there's people who are composing for video games, stuff like that. So I can speak on behalf of at least recording all this voiceover material in a studio, right? I would say in that environment, what's different from a lot of the film stuff, the only way where they relate is probably when you do ADR in film, right? Because all we're doing is in studio. In film, you're doing a lot of on-site recording. You're like, getting your wireless stuff like that. So it's the video game stuff tends to be very stationary in one place where everything's kind of there for you in one location. Film is like you're gonna have to be doing a lot of things in a lot of different places, which is not a bad thing. I think it's just a different environment altogether, But I deal a lot mostly with bringing talent into a booth, into a studio, setting up nice mics, and having scripts up with that they could read their lines and portray the characters that they need to.
Right on. That sounds really really cool. And then what's some advice that you would give to somebody again wanting to get into this right now? Like what would they do? Obviously have a passion for it. Maybe learn it from somebody, right? You have to do something. But what would you give some advice to some people?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say keep building your credentials, keep building that resume, and it doesn't necessarily. This is an important thing. It doesn't have to be a formal position that a company said, "Hey, you're the man for the job," and there's this whole formal thing. Because I think too many people get caught up in that, right? I think especially in a city like LA, a big metropolitan city where it's bustling and there's a lot of competition, I would say that you have to just really take anything you can get in the beginning, right? Like, don't be like you're gonna have to settle sometimes. You have to take those smaller gigs. You really have to find them out on your own. Sometimes it becomes down to you and some buddies creating projects and creating things that you could say, "Hey, I did this," and going from there, you show those things and really about getting momentum and building enough credentials and a big enough resume, even with informal projects, to where you could put it all together and on paper it looks great, right? And of course, you don't want to lie about what you did, but as long as on paper it looks great and you can do those skills that you went and found those projects yourself, then you could get to where you need to, right? And then you could get the bigger jobs, just create something that's a little bit of like of eye candy for people who are hiring. But yeah, take what you can and keep working your way up little by little.
So yeah, so basically take free jobs. I mean, entertainment industry, acting. I'm interviewing a lot of people that are in this industry, and basically, it's you kind of got to start from do a lot of free gigs, right? But the free gigs do pay off. I mean, you find little gems in there. You could get paid in other ways, and with a sense like you get paid with like a friendship. So you could get paid. You meet a friend that has a project later, and he could put you on it. That's a paid gig. So that's another cool thing about doing free jobs. You're gonna meet somebody that's wanting to hustle. No one's really gonna want to stay stagnant. Everybody, well, some people might, are comfortable, but for the most part, people are trying to hustle and get to the next level. And if you're starting out with a group of people like that, it could really, benefit all you guys. And like you said, go with some friends, create your own things and learn your craft, get good at your craft. So when you put it on a resume, it will benefit you when someone asks you to do something. Like you said, you went to a studio earlier, and we touched on that. So you said you went to a studio. You told me,
Yeah.
from memory, you went to a studio and it was an internship, and the guy was like, "Do this," and you're like, "Okay, I could do that," right? So
Yeah.
all the skills that
Yeah.
you learn, use them and apply them, and you have to have a passion for it. And that was really cool. It's a cool. I love like talking to people that have different jobs in the entertainment industry. There's so many different jobs in the entertainment industry that a lot of people don't maybe know about. There's so many things that go into a video game, into a film, into a commercial, and I want to interview all of them that are my friends and give us some insight, because this whole thing I wanted to do is just really help somebody that is wanting to be an engineer, audio engineer, and they see, Yuli do it, and hopefully it could light some type of fire for you watching it. And leave comments. There's comments for him. I could relay the message. He could comment back or whatever. But yeah, this is basically a lesson with Yuli, the audio engineer. Thank you for so much for giving the people some tips on how to do this. And he could do it, we could do it, everybody could do it. You just have to have a
Right.
passion for it.
That's
It's like
right.
anybody could do anything they want to do, but you just got to kind of go forward and do it. You don't want to sit, be stagnant. You got to be like hustling, like you said. Go get it yourself. Go meet friends, meet people, do free gigs, do this. You got to just go after it, and your resume will slowly build and build and build and build, and your skills will get better and better and better. And finally, you'll meet some people like you met Vic, you met Falcon. You said you met
Hmm.
another boy, and all
Yeah.
these people that he met through his journey got him plugged in with this person, that person, and now he's working at a really big video game company making big video games, and that's really cool. So yeah, so that is again the lesson with Uly Nieto, the audio engineer. He's my boy. Um, yeah, I'll put all his links in there in the description and give him a follow. So yeah, thank you and have a good night.